This is the last chef knife video of 2018. These are all the best chef knives I've used, not just in 2018, but in 2016 and 2017. So I've got knives under $100, which are more of your essential everyday knives, and then you have knives over $100, which are more like splurge knives. Well, I'll take that back. Knives over $200 are more like splurge knives. So my reviews and my perspective do not come from the perspective of a working professional. I have very limited knife skills, and so my requirements for what I use at home is very different than a working professional. So as long as you guys understand that, please keep on watching. Alright, so the first knife we have here is the Renaissance Millennia. Very good cutting profile, very good blade for your money. It's got a nice rubberized, grippy silicone handle and very nice contours. The only real negative critique I have about this knife is that in a pinch grip, your thumb is rubbing against the top part of the bolster or the rubberized bolster, and it's not very comfortable. Not necessarily a deal killer. For $15, you cannot get a better knife than the Millennia. It also happens to be my best pick under $20. The next knife we have here is the Mercer Genesis 8-inch chef knife. It has more of a traditional handle with a rubber coating around it. Very grippy. Running your fingers on the spine and on the bolsters, you really won't have any sharp angles that are uncomfortable. One of the reasons why I really like Mercer knives in this price point, and even up to $40, is that they offer their knives without those finger guards and those large bolsters. I'm not really a big fan of those. They make cutting kind of cumbersome for me, and I don't really see the point of it. They also make knife sharpening very difficult. So the combination of good quality steel, good cutting profile, comfortable handle with a rubberized texture, and the lack of a full bolster finger guard makes this knife the best pick for under $30. The next knife here is Victorinox, priced at $34. Every single knife channel I have seen this knife on praises that this is the best knife they have ever used, bar none, whatever price point. I disagree with that. I'll have a full review of this knife out very soon, but I think this knife has been oversold by not just by YouTubers, but by other professional outlets out there. And a very popular channel claimed that this knife here held an edge almost as good, if not as good, as the $300 Kramer. I have no idea why this knife and the Kramer needed to be sent to some sort of fancy laser lab to validate edge retention. So it makes no sense to me. I have spoken to a lot of working professionals who swear by this knife, so I'm not gonna discount what they're saying, but for me, this is simply not the best pick at $35, currently selling on Amazon. This is the Meister 4 Seasons chef knife. When people were asking a lot about Meisters, I went out and picked up a few knives. This was one of them, and I have to say, I like the cutting profile of this knife a lot better than the Victorinox. At its highest point, it's about 6mm taller than the Victorinox, and because of the extra height on this knife, I have found that it has a better rocking profile on the cutting board. Sharpness out of the box, they're about the same. I don't feel like one was actually sharper than the other. The steel quality on both knives are essentially the same. The handle on the Meister for my hands is definitely more comfortable. It's more ovalized and rounded in the center. It just made for a much more comfortable grip for me versus a slightly taller, skinnier handle, what you will find on the Victorinox. This knife here, at the current price on Amazon, it's less than the Victorinox, and to me is a more compelling knife in terms of the overall cutting profile and the handle comfort. The next knife we have here is the Mercer Renaissance. When I first started researching high quality knives, Mercer was a brand that kind of kept popping up. And I've owned 3 or 4 other knives before this one here. The bread knife, the ham knife or the slicing knife. I still have them. They actually are still in my knife collection that I use once in a while. But Mercer knives have always been very high quality for the price that you pay. This knife here is no different. It has a nice cutting profile for those who like to rock on the cutting board. The handle is very beefy. It's got the polyoxymethylene palm handle, and again, for me being a hand sharpener, I really enjoy the fact that these don't come with a finger guard. Lots of my subscribers actually use these knives for everyday work, and they are very robust workhorses. It's usually priced around $40, give or take a few dollars. At either end of that price range, a very compelling knife. The next knife we have here is the Yak Suleman at the $80 price range. This knife here is by far the best knife I have tested of all the knives I've used. Fit and finish, build quality, sharpness out of the box, core material is all top notch. Yak Sule does an amazing job with their handles. This one here is an ovalized, slightly taller handle than their higher end knives, but very comfortable, double stainless steel rivet with an end cap. I mean, you really cannot find anything wrong with this knife. Again, I've tested lots of knives, Chinese knives, German knives, and other Japanese knives in this price range, and to me, the Yak Suleman is by far the most compelling knife. This is the Matsumoto VG. It's a knife that I've owned now for 3 years. If you were to research a knife purely based on specs, this knife here would not be anywhere close to the top. It would be somewhere in the middle, and especially when you factor in price, it would be probably close to the bottom. Even though it doesn't really use the best steel out there for the price, it does more than make up for it in terms of overall cutting profile and performance. It's a very standard Western handle, not uncomfortable, but not the most comfortable handle out there for all-day use. But in your hands on the cutting board, you will definitely appreciate this knife a lot more. It's a very nimble knife, it's very sharp out of the box, it's got a nice thin grind from the spine all the way to the cutting edge. It's just a very nice knife. The next knife we have here is the Enzo HD. It has a VG10 core steel, heat treated to about a 61. Out of the box, extremely sharp. And the fit and finish of these knives are fantastic. You're not going to have any complaints about them. At the $129 mark, there's no knife that I've used and tested that has better build quality and better fit and finish than this knife. And they do go on sale a few times a year, and when you find this knife for 20% off, it is even a much better buy than the Yak Suleman. The next knife here is the Yak Super Go. Now I also have the Yak Go and the Enzo SG2 model here. They all use the same core steel, they all have the same blade shape, they all have the same handle shape, but there are some very minor differences between them. Here are the differences. The Super Go has a red and black micarta handle, the Go has an all black handle, and the Enzo has an all black handle with one single samurai crest. On the blade front, the Super Go has 161 layers of Damascus cladding, and the Enzo and the Go has 101 layers of Damascus cladding. Don't be fooled when you see a knife that has 191 layers, 163 layers, or even 200 plus layers of Damascus cladding. That is strictly cosmetics. It has nothing to do with actual blade core performance. They are one of the most comfortable handles you will ever use, very nicely overalized. The Enzo knives, however, will go on sale a little bit more frequently than the Yak knives. And so if you find the Enzo on sale, I would say go for the Enzo. So the combination of SG2 core steel, heat treated to a 63 on the Rockwell scale, 161 layers, the ovalized, very comfortable Western handle makes the Super Go my best pick for Japanese knife under $300. The Miyabi Birchwood is essentially in the same price range and performance class as the Enzo SG2 and the Super Go. The Birchwood uses a traditional Japanese D-shaped handle. The cutting profile of the Birchwood is very nice. It's a bit shorter in terms of height than the Yak's. It's about 2 to 3 millimeters shorter. In the very beginning, I was afraid that this was not going to give me enough knuckle clearance, but after using it in my home for about almost 2 months straight, never once did my knuckles actually hit the cutting board during usage. Definitely one of the most handsome knives I have in my collection. I love the look of the Birchwood, that burnt wood look. So the Miyabi Birchwood is my best pick for best Japanese knife under $300 for those who want a more traditional Japanese handle and using SG2 core steel. Now the Kramer Carbon is one of the very few non-Japanese knives I have here. As you can tell, I'm a bit biased towards Japanese knives. Yes, I said it, I am a bit biased when it comes to knives. I am more biased towards Japanese knives. Yes, you got me. It's a mono steel knife. It uses 52-100 for the entire blade. So it does form a patina over time. It will form rust if you don't wash and dry this knife after cutting acidic ingredients like tomatoes and onions. I really like the fact that they use brass bolsters and rivets on this knife, because as the knife ages and as you use it, the brass rivets and bolsters actually will form patinas that will more or less match and age with the knife blade. It also has a tapered tang, which you really don't find on any knives these days, even though it doesn't have the same edge retention and sharpness as the other knives we have here. In terms of an overall package and overall experience of ownership, it is really fantastic. Though this is not a custom knife and not handmade by Bob Kramer himself, he designed this knife from tip to heel, and you can really see that in all the details on this knife. These next two knives are more bonus knives because they cost more than $300, and I don't really see the point of buying a knife over $300, especially at, let's say, the $200 mark, and you can get pretty much what I consider perfect knives. This is the Akaizawa Chow using Awagami Super 65 Rockwell at the cutting edge. It is made by blade master Kenichi Shiraki, who is Murray Carter's master. It has a very special place in my home because it is made by a master craftsman. It's also one of the very few knives I have here with an octagonal handle. I really like octagonal handles. I think they look really nice. And in a pinch grip, they feel very comfortable as well. Overall, it's a very nice package. It's $350 retail. For $100 less, I really suggest getting one of the SG2 knives by Yak Suleman, which will perform just as well on the cutting board and are much more comfortable to hold in the long term. If you guys have not seen the cut test on this knife, it really almost ruined me. This is the knife that actually gave me carpal tunnel. Alright, so this here, as you guys know, if you guys have watched my channel, is the Matsumoto KS. The Matsumoto KS is the unicorn of the knife world. It has a fantastic cutting profile, like a French sabatier profile. The wood that's used on the handle I think is actually kind of cheap, but the buffalo horn fell is nice. It's a mono steel knife using white number 2. I did have a chance to visit Matsumoto when I was in Tokyo, and here's what they had to say about this knife. I think we found it. I think we're here at Matsumoto. We're here at the famous Matsumoto. So for the KSs, you don't know when you come back in stock? In stock. You don't know when?
Yes.
Really? It's you know why? What's the reason? The steel, or is it
Yes, steel and
supply doesn't catch up. Labor, making supply.
making and steel.
Oh.
And yes,
So the white steel is very hard to get right now?
yes, white steel.
I guess I'm kind of mourning this knife's loss at this point. So again, it's in this video because I love this knife, but it's not kind of in the video because it's a knife that you can buy. Whether you buy the $15 Mercer or up to a $300 knife, or if these are in stock and somehow you can find them up to a $350 knife, they're all fantastic. A knife is a tool. Remember, having a good tool does not make you a better chef, and I am living proof of that. As you guys know, I am one person and I can only buy and test so many knives in a single year. Feel free to leave in the comments what other knives you guys want me to test, and I will do my best to pick up at least a few of your suggestions and talk about them. And Merry Christmas to all of you guys. Thank you for being here, and I'll catch you in the next one.